I'll start by saying what we all know. Every child is special. Your child is special, your children are special, and I'm sure that you all know and are aware of that. But what makes children different? Creative thinking. How are we able to nurture our children's creativity in every aspect? And what I'm here to talk about is just an awareness of why it's important that we balance academic learnings and non-academic learnings in order to raise well-rounded children. So as I said earlier, every child is born with a talent or with talents. And the question now is, now that you know that your child is talented, what next? Or how do you know that your child is talented? We can start from that. And how do you make space to allow the child express their creative sides as much as possible and nurture that to raise a well-rounded individual or a well-rounded child? So we start with the first things first. It's not about you, it's about the child. So we have, this is what usually happens in our Nigerian society. Or well, when I was growing up, I don't know whether it's changed now. It's changing now. In the family, welcome. In the family, you would usually have, oh, the parents studied this, and then the children have to study that, and that. And I think that that trend is increasingly changing now in the world that we are in now. So it's important that parents take time out to just understand their child's interests, their child's passions. How do we do that? From a very young age, exposing them to different things, not just academic. Yes, we have the lesson teachers, math, English, but exposing them to just more creative extracurricular activities as well. So the usual, it would usually be like music, sports, acting, and things like that. But I think the world is moving from there even a little bit more now to just creative expressions, being able to just express yourself, whether, using tech as a way to just facilitate that creativity is also a major one. So what do we have now? Parents are now expanding those activities that they expose their children to. I'll say, for example, usually like you have parents, you would have your music lessons, your whatever instrument lessons, drama and everything like that. But I was speaking to my friend the other day. Her son loves to game, and he's decided that he wants to be a gamer. So what has she done? Usually parents will be like, oh, you're spending too much time on games and stuff like that. But she's now gotten him into robotics class, programming class, even from a very young age. He's now starting to design his own games. They started when he was 8, he's 9. He's honestly just going on that trajectory. And then you find that she discovered that passion at an early age, and he's growing in that trajectory. So it's gone beyond what we usually see. And it took time, her taking time to understand her child's interest, understand her child's passion, and helping him to build his interests in that area. How do you even find out what your child's passion and interests are in the society that we are now? It's important that we parents spend a lot of time with our children as much as we possibly can, because I know that there's work, there is just life happening that would usually just mean that we can't spend as much time. But just taking time out, even if we don't spend as much time as we want, but just those conversations and interactions, that is now easier now with tech as an example, and using that as a basis to just connect with our children one way or the other is important. I know some people that are super busy parents, that they're usually not home. They don't live in Nigeria. And then you know how it is, you're on the clock, your kids are growing up and everything. And what they've been able to do is, just over time, expose their kids to everything. So they have their instrumental days, their programming days, the sports days and everything. And then what they try to do is every Sunday, they go for family lunch. Is just from church to family lunch or from wherever to family lunch every Sunday, and then they use that period as a time to just connect on what's happening during the week, what have you been interested in and things like that. And that's how they're able to connect and understand their kids' interests and passion. it's quite interesting because their son is also really into tech, and he's been so exposed to it that what they did around the house was just there's connectivity everywhere, just because that's what he's passionate about. So he's in the house, you're just talking about something random, and then it's just like, okay, Google, what is blah, blah, blah. And then Google immediately answers him. Or, okay, Google, fix this. His dad was traveling back home one time. He wasn't sure of what time, just knew the airline. And then with Google's help, both of them were just going into it. Eventually, one way or the other, hacked into the comm system of the plane. I was listening to the pilots and stuff like that, but that's because over time they've realized that that's what he likes, and they've just made sure that everything around there is able to support that, and he's growing into it. So parents, whether the ones that have time or are busy, just find interesting ways to engage their children in their passions and in their interests and grow with that. So I think what I'm just trying to say is it can't be about, because my friend's child does piano, then I must make sure that my child also has piano lessons. Because my friend's child is in sports, I must make sure, no. It's about expose the child to a lot of things, spend time understanding and just listening to the children, finding their interest, and one way or the other, incorporating it into their lives, and they will gravitate towards it one way or the other, even in spite of and despite our very busy schedules in life. So, first note, please don't make the mistake of imposing your interest on your child. Discover it along with the child as the child is growing up, and you would find what the child is. And as I said, it can't be the usual, that's tech. One of my friends, her son loves football, and what they do is every opportunity, signing up for football academic and stuff like that, and he's really now progressing in that football, on that football trajectory. So it works differently for different parents, right? And the world is really changing. There's nothing wrong with having big dreams for your child, but help the child discover it, and discover it with the child patiently. So now, how do I explore my child's talent? It's important as a parent to take notes. Just understand, okay, this is what everybody's playing, this is where my child is gravitating towards. Okay, that's quite interesting. Feed the child a little bit more of what they're interested in, maybe not one, a few, and then as time goes on, you find what they prefer. If everybody's running around, does my child prefer sitting and building? If everybody is sitting, does my child prefer running, right? This is not the time to start finding interesting names for it, because children learn differently, right? So they'll tell you, oh, this child is not sitting down at all. Maybe it's ADHD. No, maybe not. Maybe it's just that the child learns differently and is interested in other things, and then you find the system that helps that child learn differently and understand differently. As I said earlier, spend time with the child in spite and despite of your busy schedule. Allow them to solve things related to their interests, just independently. So what I find is a lot of parents just keep helping the children, like don't make a mistake, don't, you can't do it again, let me support you and stuff. It's okay for the child to fail in some things. It's okay for the child to, that's when you would know whether you really are able to, ready emotionally and have the perseverance to keep going at it until you get better at it, right? Or if it's just one of passion that, you know what, I'm not really interested anymore because I did not do well in it. If the child is really interested, even if the child fails at it, or even if it takes longer, the child will, by themselves, research and find out about things. And then, as I said, look for extracurricular activities that support that for the child. Just, there are so many ECAs now, extracurricular activities in Lagos. It's such an interesting time to be alive. There's STEM, there's drama, singing. There's a lot of ECAs now that just help to engage children in their areas of interest. And if there are none, you can check online. Honestly, there's a lot of information online and everywhere, right? With AI, there's so much that one can now, the tools that one needs, that one can get. And then, just having the right mentors and skills for development, engage them in activities that are enjoyable for them. If they enjoy it, they would continue. If it now becomes a chore, right? So my oldest daughter swims. When she was in primary school, she really enjoyed it. And then as she left primary school to high school, it became a chore, right? Because it's a lot of training. You can't, with swimming, I don't think you can take a break for more than 2 weeks, right? Because immediately it starts to tell on your time. So when we found out that it was becoming too much of a chore, we had to pull back, okay, no competitions, but still continue to just train and all. And then over time, she started falling in love with it again and then went back in, right? But if it becomes such a chore that the child never wants to go back, right? No, you have to go. It's football time. Whether rain comes or hell opens up and stuff like that. I'm not saying that there shouldn't be the discipline, but it should just be, oh, what exactly is happening? Why is it becoming such a pressure point? Are you able to handle that pressure and supporting the child through that period? They would either come back or they would lose interest, right? So just keeping it enjoyable for the child is also good, and praising their efforts, right? If you do well, that's great. If you don't do well, did you put your best in? That's still great, right? Everybody cannot be first, right? But everybody can put in their best and be disciplined and persevere, and that's what builds character. So I think that that's just very important, as opposed to, it's the journey towards it as opposed to the results all the time, because it tells a lot on just mental ability, enjoying the love of and the passion over time. And then join them in it, support their creativity. You know what your child's passion is, support it. If your child enjoys football, it's not the time to say, oh, I don't watch football, I don't enjoy football. No, find out about it also so that you can just have conversations with them. If your child enjoys tech stuff, at least read about it. It's difficult, it keeps changing. Even if you cannot program, you can talk about, oh, what exactly are you trying to create, and just help them to speak confidently about it as time goes on. And then, practice. I'm not sure that 10,000 hour rule is not a myth, right? Even if you're not great at something, if you keep at it, you would get to a certain level where you are a maestro one way or the other. So just practicing and helping. So my kids are into sports. Why? Because I think that it helps with discipline, it helps with time management, it helps with teamwork, it helps develop character. So we put a lot of time in things like that. And it's the same thing when you're developing anything in a child. The question is why? What is the end result? At the end of the day, there's a journey that they go through, and then over time they learn a lot of things, a lot of soft skills. I tell parents all the time that now that we're older, what are the things that help us in life? Math, because you need to understand, the profit from anything that you're doing. English, because you need to be able to communicate, at least in Anglophone Africa. But the most important thing, honestly, is personal interactions, right? So it's just building things like loyalty, honesty, hard work, just those things that would differentiate one. And then being able to nurture talent usually builds that for children, because you know not to give up. Even as you grow up and people annoy you, you know not to give up. You know to be able to handle everybody's personalities, because you've worked with different people over time. You know to put in the work, because when you put in the work and you're consistent at it, you get good results. Even when you don't get the results you're looking for, you know to go back and keep trying until you get the result that you want. So thinking about it from that perspective and educating your child on those softer skills would also help them realize that it's not just about the talent you're nurturing, whether in sports, in tech, in music, in drama. It's also building your character. It's also forming you into the human being that you want to be and interact with, and would be a positive to the society in future. So just having that mindset at the end of the day always makes a lot of difference. So now that you have all the nuggets of finding the talents, as I said, consistency, perseverance is very key. Not putting too much pressure and making it enjoyable for the kids is very, very key. And that's all about, the parents, because it takes time and effort and resources, right? Because you pay for these things, for the skills or the skilled teacher to teach your children. You have to, one way or the other, if you don't take the child to practice or to the lessons, you would get people that will do that consistently. Always remember, put it on their schedule. The extra time that they have to put into it outside of that learning period has to also be taken into consideration. consideration. Parents would usually have to remind their children, because at the end of the day, they are still growing up until they become independent people. So what are the things that you can do? Around the house, let the creativity be seen. As I said before, if your child is into tech, get the gadgets around the house. If your child likes to draw, all their artworks, put it around the house. So whenever people come in and they're like, oh, my child did this, drew it, oh, well done. They have a sense of pride in their work as well. If your child likes to sing, every opportunity that you have for them to showcase their talent. If your child likes to play sports, the family, you, everybody there to support the child. If your child likes to bake or cook, Christmas. So for example, my daughter, Christmas cakes, Easter cakes, she bakes it for everybody that comes around the house. She's always very happy. If you ask her to bake for you, she will ask you for the money, right? So, because over time, she's been able to just grow it and realize, oh yeah, this is what it gives people a good feeling as well. I enjoy it, and it also gives people a good feeling, and my parents are happy. So it's just to give them opportunities, praise their efforts. When they're feeling down, the days that they're under so much pressure, praise their efforts as well. Let them have a little break from time to time, but keep at it and not give up. Start early, find it early, don't wait, because for some things that you want to do, the number of years, as I said, 10,000 hour rule. If you start early, then you're able to just identify it really quickly, and then they can grow in it and are able to understand the trends, and it comes easier over the years, right? Especially for physical things, because even for sports, your body pretty much adjusts to it. Your hands are more nimble. If you're playing the keyboard, your body adjusts. If you're swimming or if you run, as you keep practicing, right? You get better at, recipes. If your child likes to cook, programming becomes easier if you do it over and over. And then I think one other interesting thing that I find is to teach your child just how to also commercialize their talents. Of course, you would, from time to time, offer your services for free, CSR, or what do they call it? All the freebies from time to time. It's okay, but also teaching your child the commerciality of a lot of things is important, right? So if over time, your child likes to paint, if there are opportunities, sign them in for competitions, let them win things, or events like this, paint a few things, sell them, right? It's important. If your child likes to sing or dance, join a club that will see that, you can make money from these things. It can actually pay for what you're doing, because the world needs more. The world is capitalist to a very large extent, and your child would need to learn that from, at some stage, that it's important that if you see yourself doing this in future, it needs to be able to sustain you, and you need to be good at it for it to be able to sustain you. So building commercially minded children around that talent also as a reward system is a good thing, and is a plus to also have at the back of your mind. I think the last point would be, and it's quite interesting that we are here, choosing a school that also provides quality and well-rounded education. So the quality of the environment that your child is in is also really important. So I know that, the school that your child goes to from primary to secondary and university is also quite important. Do they spend as much time with academics as they should? And is it in-depth enough that would help your child to think very well? Do they have enough time to allow the child to also be a creative being, right? So what other creative activities do they have as a school outside of the academic work? And do they nurture that? Do they nurture growth in your child? So is the school a school where your child can run? They identify and then they train the child. Your child is good at math and art. They identify that and they move the child into, a tech special class. Your child is good at music. Do they have that will just grow your child? So just taking time out, and if the school doesn't, having conversations with them to just build that as well is important, because the environment your child is in is also quite important in shaping who the child is from time to time. So I'm hoping that with these few points, you got a thing or two about how to better raise your geniuses and your talented children. Thank you. If there are any questions or any areas that you want us to cover, or you think I didn't cover, it would be nice to ask. Go ahead, please.
How do you know when talent is just fleeting? It's not something the child is really going to focus on based on the age of the child. The children tend to shift interest. So how do you know when that particular talent is going to start in the child and the long-term growth?
Thank you. That's a very interesting question. So as I said earlier, when the child is young, it's good to expose the child to a variety of things. And then as they grow older, some things will start to fall off and some things will stay. Exposing them to a lot of things means that you would find what they gravitate towards. Even if they decide that I'm not interested in this, the latent knowledge or the latent learnings from what they have picked up would also help for whatever it is that they're eventually going to gravitate towards, right? So the usual ones, and that's why I think a lot of schools have that. When you have your academy, you have ECAs. What you can do is, in this term, do these ECAs. Next term, register them for these ECAs, if that's the easiest way, right? Or these are the basic things that I think that my child should know as life skills. And then you probably would help them identify that at first, understanding your child. And then over time, it gets easier because the child will tell you, no, I want to go back to this, or I want to still continue in this area. And then over time, but keep an open mind. And as they grow older, even life will force them to just choose, right? But once they are older, then they can make that choice. But if they haven't had exposure to a few things, then they will struggle to make that choice, because how would you choose from what you don't even know that you're good at? I hope that helps. Any more questions, comments? Go ahead.
Okay, so as a caregiver in a school setting, how do you help the child? We've seen that this child has the talent, but for some personal reasons from the parents, maybe religious or cultural reasons, even gender, they may not want to encourage that child. So how do you help this child not to get discouraged and kill that talent?
So it depends on how old the child is. If it's a younger child, I think you should trust the parents somewhat, right? But engaging the parents constantly, because you need the parents. You actually need the permission of the parents to be able to do anything, or engage the child in any way. I think that for a lot of parents, if they see that their children are really good at something, and the school is able to explain to them the longer term effects. So as I said, it's not just about, oh, my child can run, or my child can play this. It's about, these are the developmental areas that it will change in your child, and this is what you would see over time. This is what we have seen. People in the society that have gone this way, this is how big this can be. It's also how it is being presented to the parents, right? So you would learn, academics for a lot of parents is top, and it's understandable in the world that we live in right now. But in addition to that, how about we find a way to ensure that your child is growing in another area that will build character, build discipline, build perseverance, and potentially can be commercialized, and also give the child this and that and that. I think that a lot of parents would eventually come around if it's presented to them in that way. If it is not, the school can try to expose the child to just areas, and if the child is gravitating, they would spend time in it. So if the school and the child are both showing the parents that, what, this is one area that I think I would be happier in, when the child gets to a certain age, they can't go back to it. Thank you.
Adenike Kuti is the founder and CEO of Oak Ears Limited, an advisory and investment firm in Lagos which supports companies in implementing their corporate objectives and growth plans. She is a seasoned sector-agnostic finance professional with 16+ years Pan-African experience spanning investment banking, consulting, infrastructure investments, and private equity. She is happily married with 3 beautiful children.